Hi, and welcome back to Gavin's Sonex B. Well, before anybody asks, no, I haven't cut all my hair off. It's just tied back. It's still here, but I've been grovelling on the floor underneath the aircraft, and it's better if I have it tied back. So it's been 2 months since the last time I spoke to you, and I have put in a lot of time in short bursts, hour here, couple of hours there, every few days, and seem to have made almost no progress. But I know that's not true. I have made some progress, it just doesn't look like it. So what have I been doing? Well, last time I spoke to you, we were looking at the forward fuselage, the cockpit, and I had it sort of semi put together, separated from the tail cone. And if you remember, I was about to attach the floor and sort of put it all together. So I've done that, and it currently looks like this. Let's go wider angle. And so the forward fuselage is attached to the tail cone, and internally it's looking a bit like this now. And so basically what I've done is I've taken the side panels, which were partially riveted, and clecoed everything else to it. I've also done the seat backs, the seat back, which isn't in there at the moment. Everything in the bottom of the cockpit is fitted with clecos, and mostly drilled out to copper cleco size now. Because basically every time I did something, I realised that it had a knock-on effect to something else. So whereas up to now I've been used to sort of working with one or two drawings, to do the forward fuselage, you really need to look at about the best part of a dozen, I reckon, drawings, because everything is reliant on everything else. You can't really finally rivet anything together until you've got all the parts for the forward fuselage fitted, clecoed in place, and you know that everything fits. Because if you do rivet something, you then find that you need to either get access to drill another hole, and you can't. So it's taken a lot of hours. Fitting the floor was very easy. Everything seemed to line up okay. Fitting the firewall was a little bit more tricky, in that it's a very tight fit in between the side panels, and getting it all lined up and clecoed in place was quite difficult to do on my own. And then I've also, to make sure everything's in line and gonna fit, attached the engine frame as well, because I didn't want to basically construct the forward fuselage and then find that something was out of line and the engine frame wouldn't fit. So we've temporarily fitted the engine frame with its bolts. The Firewall is fitted and currently silver clear coat, although that's going to be copper clear coat shortly. I've drilled all the mounts out to the proper bolt sizes, and we've got the strengthener fitted at the front and all clear coat in place, and that will be probably copper clear coat next, and then riveted together as a sub-assembly. And we've done I had to shorten slightly the seat bearers. As I explained before, they didn't fit the angles at the ends very well, so I trimmed those and they're quite good now. The little assembly in the center for the seat belt mountings, that is actually riveted together as a sub-assembly, because couldn't put it in there with the clecos in it because there's not enough room, so that got made up as a separate little assembly and is clecoed in place. Made up the idler assembly, the elevator idler assembly. That's clecoed in place, but I can't drill the holes into the bottom cross member there of the tail cone because I just can't get a drill in there. So I'm going to start stripping all this lot out so that I can get access and drill through the bracket into the cross member. And so basically, to make sure absolutely everything is square and fits perfectly, I've pretty much assembled the entire forward fuselage in situ, attached to the tail cone, and everything's square, level, and I'm pretty happy with it. I've used every single one of my 300 copper clecos. A majority of them are under here. You'll see that it's a forest of clecos underneath. And I've spent an awful lot of time lying on my back underneath the forward fuselage, drilling the holes, clecoing everything together, then up drilling them all, and it's taken hours, to be quite honest. I don't know how many holes there are in the floor, but there are a lot. So that's where I am at the moment. I'm looking forward to it all coming together. So the plan at the moment is to strip out all of the components from the aft end of the fuselage, forward fuselage, and basically up drill anything that hasn't been copper clecoed, and deburr everything, deburr the floor, take it completely to pieces, deburr everything. I've got some work to do on the tunnel. That's got to be got to have a couple of hours of work done on that as well. And then the idea then is to actually rivet as much of this into place as and again I will do it in situ, so assembled onto the tail cone, making sure everything's square, level, etc., and and try and assemble as much of it as I can up to the back of the for wing rigging. That is actually fitting the wings, or test fitting the wings. The back side of the tunnel can be completely finished and riveted into place, but the front side of the tunnel Z as it's called on the plans, needs to be removable, and this is so that you can put the wings into the tunnel with access into the tunnel to use the holes in the wings as a pilot to drill through the back side of the tunnel for the main fixings. And then once you've done that, you can put the tunnel Z, the forward side of the tunnel, back on in place and drill forwards through the whole assembly to make sure that all the holes line up and are perfect. And on that, I really wanted to use the quick release pins for this. There's a choice basically. You can either use the bolts that they provide, which is a 1/2 inch bolt either side, with a castellated nut and a securing pin. The only problem with that is that the nut ends up underneath the seat, and once the seat is once the seat is riveted into place, there's no access to the nut, so you can't withdraw the bolt. Ways round this are to cut a hole in the seat or put a hatch in or something like that to be able to get at the nut, or fit quick release pins that are inserted from the front side, which is easy to get at. Unfortunately, the quick release pins that are recommended are McMaster, an American make, and you can't buy them in France. And I've tried several times to order them from the US, from McMaster's themselves and a couple of other places, and nobody will ship them to France. I'm not very happy about using any substitutes because or equivalents, because I don't know whether they are equivalent. And all the European ones are metric, and as I've already drilled the wing fixings out to 1/2 inch, a 12mm bolt would wiggle around and be loose, so I'm stuck with 1/2 inch really. So I'm going to go with the bolt, and I'll have to think of a way of being able to get access to the nut, but that's not a big issue. So it's just a bit of a pain in the arse that you just can't buy the damn quick release pins in Europe or the UK. I've tried the UK, can't get them from there either. So if anybody's got any brilliant ideas or would like to order me some and send them to France, I'll pay. Let me know. Yes, so the idea now is to strip it all down once it's fully copper clecoed out, deburr everything, and then rivet as much of it together as I possibly can. The only proviso on that is that I'm going to leave it so that I can detach the forward fuselage from the tail cone. So I won't be riveting down the sides, across the bottom and up the other side, and I won't be riveting the back end of the idler assembly onto the cross member either. The reason for this is I've got to move the thing to the hangar in November, and I'm going to use my trailer, my trusty trailer, and it won't fit on the trailer in one piece. So I'm going to leave it so that it can be split into two sections, which will easily fit on the trailer then. Once it's over at the hangar, I can finally rivet it together, but only then. So that's what I've been busy doing. I don't know how many hours I've spent on the Ford fuselage. I thought the Ford fuselage was going to be relatively simple, but actually it has proved to be the most complicated bit to actually get my head round what needs to be done and in what order. And I'm not very good with trying to juggle too many things at the same time. I like to have a set procedure to work to, a logical progression, but this hasn't really been like that. From what my experience is, you've actually got to pretty much build the entire thing, the Ford fuselage, in up to Clico stage without riveting anything together. And that's why it feels like I've made no progress, because basically the same parts are here that I had mostly in place 2 months ago when I made the last video, and they're still here. But I've spent, I don't know, 20 or 30 hours, more than that probably, scrabbling around on the floor, drilling holes, lining things up, and cutting bits, and I don't know what I've been doing. It's taken a long time to do not very much. So I'm looking forward to actually riveting something together, because when I rivet something together, it makes me feel as if I've actually done something. Something's finished. Doesn't need anything done to it again. I can cross it off the list. The only other thing that I will be doing very shortly is I have made a decision about my instrument panel. Now, those of you who've built one of these or are building one will know that the instrument panel is basically a flat piece of aluminium, quite wibbly wobbly, which is formed into a channel at the bottom end to give it a bit of strength. And I think it serves two purposes. The channel to give the panel a bit of stability at the bottom, and also it helps to hold the sides of the fuselage, the sides of the Ford fuselage, at the right distance, so maintaining the 40 inches to the outside edges of the fuselage. And the thing that's worried me is that I've seen various people's instrument panels and comments about access to the back of the instrument panel. For those that don't know, the instrument panel sits where it is at the moment. There's a little angle tray, and then there's a gap about so much, and then the rest of this area is taken up with the fuel tank. Over the top of the fuel tank, the gap and the instrument panel is the glare shield, which covers this entire area from the firewall back to the instrument panel. And once it's fitted, it can't be removed. It's physically riveted in place underneath the top longerons, which I've yet to drill and sort out. So to get access to the back of the instrument panel, the normal thing is to lie upside down with your legs up in the air, with your head underneath the instrument panel in the footwell, looking up into the pit of oblivion. Now, I'm never going to be able to do that. So I want to be able to effectively get access to the back of the instrument panel without much effort, in a situation where I can work on it if necessary. Hopefully I won't ever need to once it's wired and connected up, but you never know. So my solution to this is I'm going to make mine hinge. So I'm going to separate the panel from the channel right on the join, and then I'm going to use a piano hinge across the inside of the two to join it all back together again. So it's still going to be one piece effectively, but hinged along that edge. So when it's in situ and it's in its vertical position, screwed around the top rather than riveted, it will still have the strength that it has now. When I need to get access, I'll take the screws out and this piece will hinge down. Now, to make that work, everything that's on the back side of this has got to follow an arc coming down and mustn't, as it goes over, interfere with the glare shield. So I'm going to have to do some drawings, measure a few things up, and make sure that when I fit all my instruments that they hinge and miss everything. Also, my little glove compartment that I'm going to make, that's going to have to be a sort of strange quadrant shape from the side, so that misses everything as it comes out. It sounds complicated, but actually it isn't. I've had a little look and I think it's all going to work. And I've worked out a way of using the hinge so that the hinge is on the outside edge. And I'll show you what it looks like when I've done it, but it should maintain the strength and give me the access that I want. So that's another thing on my list at the moment. So that's where we are at the moment, and that's what I'm going to be doing next. I will shoot some videos once I've stripped the whole thing down. As I put it back together, I'll do some videos so you can see all the bits going back together, and the progression of actually putting the forward fuselage together finally, hopefully. So I hope that won't be long. As I say, I've got it booked in to go to the hangar next month. We're currently on the 26th of October, and the space is available in the hangar from the first week of November. I want to get it to the point where it's on its wheels or almost on its wheels, because once it's in the hangar it's going to have to be able to be moved easily. So I've ordered some cobalt drill bits today to drill the titanium legs to fit those, and I've obviously got to look at putting the wheels on, etc. But at the moment I've got to get the forward fuselage to the point where it is a mostly finished sub-assembly that can be detached from the tail cone, and I'll let you know how I get on. So hopefully I shall put some videos together over the next couple of weeks and get to that point. Coming up to sort of an anniversary of the aircraft, because I actually commenced construction 2 years ago on the 1st of November. So in about, where are we, the 26th, about 5 days time, 4 days time, 5 days time. 5 days time is the second anniversary, so it'll have been 2 years, which is more than I was going to spend. The target was to do it in 18 months, but I have not spent the time that I wanted to. Originally I wanted to spend 10 hours a week doing it, and that should have been enough to get it done in 18 months. And I think if I had spent that time on it, we would be looking at a finished aircraft now. But it hasn't worked out that way, and it's looking promising for next summer. Getting on to the interesting bit next, because building the engine, built lots of engines, so that's not going to be a problem. Doing the electrical wiring, I'm an electrical and electronics engineer, so that's not going to be a problem either. I hope. And finishing it off shouldn't be too difficult. I might eat my words at some point. I'm sure somebody somewhere is going, ha 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 ha. He doesn't know what's coming next. But anyway, I'll let you know how I get along, and hopefully I'll be able to upload some more video in the next week or two. See you later.